Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first of what we hope will be many product updates for Ethos ESG. If we haven't met before, my name is Jen Coombs. I'm the Director of Client Success, and I'm joined by my colleague, Matt Geiser, who's also a fellow director at Ethos. And then our founder, Luke Wilcox, of course, is on the call to answer any more of the challenging questions that you might have. So what we wanted to do today is go into a little bit more detail on the product update email that we had sent out not that long ago, to go into a little bit more detail because a paragraph doesn't always cut it. And obviously showing you is far better of a strategy. So this is the roadmap that we'll be focusing on today. It tends to follow the flow of what our product update was in that original email. So we've got the risk scorecards. Matt and I will be primarily discussing everything, but feel free to interrupt us and ask questions along the way. And we'll hopefully get everything crammed in here in an hour. So without further ado, I will go ahead and begin with our first topic here, which is looking at our risk scorecards. So I'm just going to change windows on us.
And just while you're doing that, Jenny, everyone, I just want to also emphasize thanks for joining today. If you have other questions that we don't address today, or other things you would like us to address today, please post anything in the chat as well, or shoot us an email. And we can also go a different direction if there are other important things that we should focus on too.
Yeah, and just even to add on to that, it's super casual. So, drop things in the chat if you wanted to just turn off your mic and ask us directly, interrupt us. This is definitely your time, and we just want to make sure we can cover as much detail as we can. So with that, I'll let Jenny get going.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, guys. And thank you for reminding me of that. So the risk scorecards, let's start with this one because this is pretty complex. We've actually had the risk scorecards around for quite a while now, but they are enabled for all Ethos accounts. You may have stumbled across them already, or if I have given you a tour within the last few months or so, I believe I've included those. But essentially what we've done is created a risk analysis alongside the impact scores for all of the individual companies in the system. What I wanted to do today was go through just one of these and show you the components of that risk scorecard. If you haven't already taken a look at the updates on our dashboard, it does get pushed down a little bit. It's the two most recent ones that show up there, but I do go into a lot of detail in that update that tries to answer as many questions as possible about those risks. So for the scorecard, I'm going to default back to my time as a industrials analyst, and I'm going to pick Delta Airlines because that's a real challenging one from the get-go. So you'll notice whenever you click into a company's scorecard, the default is it will go to their overall impact score, measuring that against our 45 causes and sub-causes. Within those 45 causes and sub-causes, there are individual metrics that can be tied to risk factors as well. Now, those risk factors we then use to translate into an outlined system of criteria based on materiality that's been outlined by the Sustainable Accounting Standards Board, or SASB. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with them already. This is the closest thing that we have on a global scale to a set of standards when it comes to ESG risk. There are some ESG data providers who will create their own criteria of what they believe materiality metrics are for different industries, but we say, why reinvent the wheel when SASB gives us something that is pretty foundational across much of the world already. So I'll just do this again real quick. To the left of every impact scorecard, you'll see the risk scorecard here. It's broken down into a few different areas, and I'll explain. Because we're looking at Delta, an airline, it happens to be that there are 8 material risk topics that are prominent for airlines specifically. And with every single one of these individual metrics, it discusses and gives you an individual risk score for those different categories. That ultimately compiles in the company's overall ESG risk, which is expressed here on the left side. Now, if you wanted to see all of the metrics being used to potentially measure risk, you can toggle over and click the all button, and it will show you all of the metrics that could potentially be considered as factors within that ESG risk. Again, this is just looking at an airline, but they aren't necessarily all going to be deemed material in nature, although you could have clients that want to know about, let's say, business ethics. In the grand scheme of things, business ethics, although it could be important very much so in a different industry, is not that prominent of a risk metric for an airline. So that's why it doesn't appear as one of the top material metrics. It does not include all of the possible metrics. So for example, Delta isn't going to have like exposure to deep sea fishing, for instance, because that's just not the nature of their business whatsoever. So there's not going to be any data provided on that. Therefore, it won't appear in the all category. It's just going to be factors that are typically reported on for those companies. In addition to the risk topics, there's also a little panel on the side here that tells you the status, binaries, yes or no, if they have specific policies and disclosures that are relevant to specific ESG issues. So for example, going back to the deep sea fishing, for instance, Delta doesn't have a sustainable seas policy because why? They don't need one necessarily. So anything else that they realistically would need would fall over here. And then we give them a separate score based on that. Then the risk categories down below, there's 10 of them listed. These 10 are listed for every company, regardless of what industry they're in. So there is no, needing to select anything. These 10 scores will always appear no matter what company you're examining. So things like DEI risk, geopolitical risk, these are really broad risk factors. Ultimately, these are the broader categories that are going into developing out that ESG score itself. And then for a little bit more of a redundancy, we also have the screens included on this slide because they can too feed into some of the risk topics that are discussed here. And I believe that's all I want to say about the risk scorecard for now. Oh, one thing I will say is that this is, I'll reiterate, it's specifically for companies. We don't have this capability for the funds and ETFs yet. Again, if you think about it, it's the individual holdings that you can look up these risk factors for. Because there is a lot of exposure to different industries, usually in a ETF or a mutual fund, it's difficult to tie specific materiality metrics to that now. But that's something that we'll consider in the future, is being able to tie scores to that. Is there anything else I should add to that, Matt or Luke?
Anything?
Okay.
I just want to encourage anybody, if they have any questions on this before we move on, feel free to, again, either use the chat or just let us know. You can turn off your mic and just ask it if you're comfortable.
And one comment, I guess, we added risk topics in response to requests from a lot of clients, especially clients on the construction side, looking at portfolio construction, fund construction. So some of our asset manager, fund manager clients, and also wealth management clients who are interested in using this for construction. Yeah, so hopefully it's helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Luke, because this is primarily information that would be relevant for those in asset management or analysts that are building out models. For advisors themselves, this probably isn't relevant too much to look at on an individual basis, but just understand that these are metrics that are being included in that impact score already. We've just isolated them so you can view the individual risk factors.
Yeah.
Matt, do you want to take us through the screen functionality?
Why don't you head that
when
off?
I drive?
Yeah.
Sure.
The screening functionality is there's a lot there, and I think, Luke, this is one too that you might want to jump into because we have had a lot of functionality. It's kind of been phased in over the last couple months.
Yeah, if you go to that screens section, please, Jenny.
Sure.
This is also a request from a few clients. Broke out this screens section here is a little bit more separated, unique section where you can just look at any of the screen categories. If you click on that See All Screens button, Jenny, under Screens, there's the See All Screens.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there we go.
Thanks. So there's I think about 60 different screen categories from fossil fuel, coal, alcohol, controversial weapons, deforestation, all these different negative screens that, if you X out of this, Jenny, back to the previous screen, please.
Yep, sorry about that.
So this will let you, if you want to filter to any one of those screens, say you want to look at all the fossil fuel screens, all companies that pass or that fail that. Yeah, if you go to that one, please. It's going to show you both the pass fail, and the column there on the right where it's pass fail is going to be just a yes, no, does it pass or not? That the screen, each screen has a revenue percentage. Typically it's 5 to 10% is our default threshold to say, does it pass the screen? If you want to say set a stricter threshold and say I only want to include fossil fuel free, fully free companies or companies that have less than 1% involvement in fossil fuel, that slider there, Jenny, if you want to adjust that to something like 5% or 2% or something.
5 here.
So it's going to screen out any company that has above that percentage involvement in fossil fuel or whatever the screen is that you're looking at. And you can also just click that pass fail button below there to look at all companies that fail or that pass. If you, that'll let you just do a quick, I want to look at just pass or just fail. And if you have that revenue threshold there, Jenny, if you move that back up to
100.
Yeah, up to 100, please.
Okay.
So 690 companies that fail this this particular screen. This will be a quick way to look at a particular screen that you or a client are wanting to apply. And then if you click into one of those screens, if you hover over one of the companies and click on View Details, one of the companies, I just want to pick one. So this one is not a ton of detail. If you go back to a previous one, some of the screens will have like financial details or revenue details and show. So this one is just fully focused on oil and gas. Some of the companies will show some more details on what's behind the like this one has more information about their financial statements. So depending on the company and what's available publicly, they disclose about their business model or their financials, then we'll try to include some of the backup detail here. So all in the spirit of being as transparent as possible in what fails the screen, why it fails. This just gives you more control over looking at different screens, depending on what you or a client are wanting to apply.
Just one thing to add to that too, and I don't know if anybody used the light screens in the past, but the slider is it really does replace that. So now you can kind of choose where you want that to be and how much revenue exposure you want to have for a particular screen. So hopefully it's a lot more flexible.
And you can also apply multiple screens here. So if you want fossil fuel plus alcohol plus some other things, you can stack them on top of each other to have different thresholds, and you can filter down if you have a bunch of screens that you want to apply, for example.
Fail off. Let's see that.
Yeah, the pass fail also is a really a nice, I mean, you might have clients that are asking like what companies don't pass this, or just even out of curiosity as you're doing research, or what are the companies that maybe you want to just make sure you exclude because they might fail something or they might pass something that isn't in line with what your customer is looking for.
Yeah, and it can be a good way to find a replacement company that might actually fit a lot of the same criteria, but just happens to pass more of these screens. All right. Anything else we should focus on for the screens, or should we move on? Any questions, guys?
So one other note, you can also, I think, export these. That CSV export button is that up at the top right, Jenny? I don't know if that's up there.
Yep, up
Yep.
here. Yes, you can.
You,
And you can
also
save the searches too.
Yeah.
So you can refer back to them if they're
Yeah.
really complex, like, like these three, for example. You can go back and not have to enter them in every single time.
Great.
All right. So the next thing I'll go ahead and move on to then, if there are no questions, are the faith-based value options. So I'll pop in here to causes to show you what we've done essentially. So we've had a pretty good increase of clients that have specifically looking for portfolios that match for Sharia law compliance or Catholic values. We just recently created a Jewish values portfolio. So we have exposure to those three as broader strategies, provided that there are, enough details or criteria surrounding a certain faith. That is what the criteria is based on for these, that is documented somewhere. But in the spirit of keeping with ethos, everything was originally designed to be adhering to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, with a heavy focus on impact for portfolios. And we'll recognize, of course, that there are those that are more values-based focus as opposed to just broadly looking to make an impact. And even though the focus for ethos is still on impact, we wanted to make sure that the values-based clients can have an entry point, if you will, into the space. So it's important to remember that faith-based values options are not part of the causes. They can be categorized with the causes, but they are separate altogether. And if you do go into our causes and topics under research, and then click this separate category, which is faith-based values, this will give you details on the three categories that we have then for. Yes, go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, sorry. Should also know this is an optional section, so you have to enable these faith-based values in your account. So they're not enabled by default, in part because what Jenny was just describing. This was not our original mission or goal with Ethos, but we did have heard a lot of requests for Jewish values, Sharia compliance, Catholic values, Christian values. So it's an opt-in feature. So under your settings, you can choose to.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to go through, actually,
yeah,
Luke, which is
okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
If we go up to the settings tab here into firm settings, like Luke said, you do have to enable it. So if I scroll down to way down here, faith-based causes is listed under rating options. You can either choose to include or exclude that, and then make sure you update it.
I have a question.
Yes, absolutely.
This might be in screens and I've never looked, but is there a possibility to screen out companies that have like an explicit religious mission to them? Like say, like Thrivent, they have an explicit Christian mission. Is that something that's on Ethos or could be considered to be added?
Yeah, we could definitely consider to add that. It's not on there today, Anya. We have a lot of, I would say, related screens, like screening out anti-abortion ones, for example. But I'll make a note, and we could certainly add that as another screen. I think that's a good idea.
That'd be great. Thank you.
The other thing, just wanted to note here too for the impact assessment, because if you do enable the faith-based values, you'll see that in addition to the 10 causes that we already have in Ethos, it's now its own standalone option. So just to reiterate, even though it's not technically a cause, if you do enable it for your account, it'll show up with the causes on the impact assessment, just to let you know.
I'd be interested to know what you call Jewish values.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
we
you,
use,
you
sorry,
can
go ahead.
absolutely go in and check
Great
that
question,
out.
Alan.
Yeah.
Being Jewish, I know that most of our values, we're skeptics. So
Yeah, if you go and click on that, Jenny. So we're
Yeah,
using
sure.
the description here, but and there's also a few public organizations that we use as they publish their principles, and I can send the names of those organizations. They would be like the American Rabbi Council or something. There's a few that publish some public principles that we use as the basis. That some of it is described here. And in a lot of cases, there are areas of overlap with some ESG principles like coexistence here, social well-being, environmental protection. But yeah, we're using some, I would say, respected authorities on what are Jewish values. I can share the names of those organizations if that's helpful, Alan.
I think they're in the product release, or like the release notes, the names of the organizations that were used.
Okay, great.
I think they should be in there too. All right. Great questions you got. Anything else I can touch on for there? I just wanted to make note that if you do want to include faith-based broadly, to do so, you just enable it in firm settings for yourself.
I'm going to add just one thing to that too, Jenny. These are not absolute. I grew up Catholic, and the Catholic values are really from the U.S. Is it the bishops, U.S. Catholic bishops?
Yeah.
Yeah, U.S. Council of Catholic Bishops.
Yeah, and does not encompass all Catholics. So, I would look at something like that, and I would like, oh, this is not necessarily my viewpoint, but there might be some things that might exist there. So I'm saying that because it's not an all or nothing, that you might, if you use those, you might want to take a look at more specifics of where your clients are, and they might need to be adjusted. That might be just good starting points.
And along those same lines, Matt, that can be a springboard from taking a values-based focused client to an impact client if you do tie the impact causes alongside the faith-based investing. So ultimately, it's a good way to have an entry point if their focus really is on religious values, but then you also have the option to expand more into, say, things like climate action or education, etc. So
Yep.
I'd say that's a nice entry point.
Yeah, I also want to note that this is something that we internally talked about quite a bit, of whether we should make faith-based values available at all. We've had a lot of internal discussion about what are our values as an ethos team, as an organization. And we really started Ethos, the whole team is focused on really the UN SDGs and so things that are universal, that we think are relevant to everyone, things like a healthy planet and equality, well-being. So we talked quite a bit and struggled with whether to include this at all. And after a lot of discussion, decided there's enough interest among our existing clients to make it an option and not available by default, but at least an option that advisors can turn on if they want.
Right.
do you do much like does this apply to like mutual funds too, or is it just individual securities?
Yeah, the ratings flow through to funds as well. So the company is, and then to funds and portfolios. So if you turn it on, then you'll see these ratings for companies, funds, and portfolios.
Yeah, I mean, in particular, what I'm interested in trying to kind of deal with is clients with like Vanguard funds, which are cheap, but they don't do any activism, and they tend to not vote, according to clients' values. They vote more often, 72% with management. So is there anything in your program that can point this kind of stuff out?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a lot around advocacy and engagement. Every fund manager like Vanguard is going to score quite low on their advocacy and engagement. And if you go to the research funds section, Alan, you can see you can filter by advocacy there. Or if you go to a Vanguard fund, for example, Jenny, you'll see can see it. Any Vanguard fund is going to score pretty poorly on advocacy.
You know, like there are ESG funds in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a Vanguard ESG Select fund with a D rating overall on advocacy.
I'm not seeing the D. Maybe the oh, I see it. Yeah, the
Down here, yeah.
thing was covering it up. Whatever, everybody's picture was covering it up.
Oh, my bad.
Talking about. Okay, so responsible governance, F. Yeah, that's pretty good. What about, so they have a couple of ESG funds. What is this one? Was it the global one?
Mhm.
Select stock, a
Yeah,
global
what
ESG
about their
select stock.
US? The other, they have a couple.
Let's see.
Yeah, do you know what the ticker is for that?
Yeah, do you happen to know the ticker, Alan?
I don't. I would just put in Vanguard US or ESG, or maybe. I
Yeah,
don't
if you go to the next page, Jenny, it might be on the next page.
Okay. No, that's US corporate bond.
ethically.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many Vanguard funds.
Yeah, but not that many
They're
ESG.
Oh, here you go. Here's a US stock one.
Yeah, like that one. There's just a
Yeah,
few.
they
Yeah.
too have a
Yeah,
D rating.
Yeah, so they don't really get a passing grade.
No.
Okay, that's good. That's what I want. Because I have a client who wants me to help him, and he has some of those funds. So he wants me to help him with choosing ESG funds.
Oh,
on an
okay.
on an hourly basis. So I just want to, but he has those particular funds. So I want to be able to show him why we don't use those funds.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
The next on the agenda I had was changes to our coverage requests. I don't think that's applicable to many folks that are currently on the call, but Luke, do you want to just talk about that real quick?
Yeah, if you want to go to support coverage requests there at the top, please. So we started this new process, giving all current clients 15 requests. We made this change. So previously, any client could request a new company or fund be added to Ethos, and our team would work on adding it. We put a limit because there's been a significant increase in the number of metrics and time that it takes to add a new company or fund to Ethos. So it's about 5 hours of an analyst's time to add a company to Ethos, and then we go through the quality control process. We're at about 600 metrics per company now, plus all the ratings and controversies and screens. So it's really just gotten to be a significant time constraint for us to add a bunch of companies and funds to Ethos. So we still want to do it, and we still want to make it available. I think it's a valuable feature. So we still have 10 to 15 requests per client of Ethos. But put in that limit because it is just a significant time constraint and a lot of our team's time to add a new company. So you should all see this request remaining here under support coverage requests. So you can submit a request directly on here. And then you can also, there's a new coverage request here. Yeah. So that's if you're looking for a company or fund that you need to add and don't see it on Ethos yet. And if you do get through the number of requests there and need to add more, there's an option to purchase more coverage requests. So it's here under this marketplace. So we get that this is a change to the process. It's essentially we have to cover our costs for adding companies. It's just a significant time requirement for us. So we added the 15 requests for all current clients. And please let me know or let Jenny and me know if you have any questions about that or concerns about that. That's a change, but it's something that we felt is important for covering our costs.
Just can I add a little bit here real quick, Luke?
Yeah, of course.
When we started doing coverage requests, and again, early stage company, we want to get as many companies and funds into the platform as we possibly can. There were about 200 metrics that we're based on. So we've kind of grown that significantly. And we have, and most of our advisors do not make coverage requests. We have a few of them that make lots of them. And so we still want to encourage that this be used, and especially for, the existing clients, we, like as Luke said, talk to us, if there's any concerns about this. For newer clients, if you're signing up today, we're going to be a little bit more strict about how we manage coverage requests, and that they will have to be purchased in these packets. And they are not, this is not a moneymaker for Ethos by any means, but we just mainly want to make sure that we are covering our costs. And we have, our customers are thinking a little bit more diligently about what actually really needs to get added in here. So that was just, I just wanted to add that in. While we're on this page too, and I don't know if you've navigated to this, but it's kind of the new marketplace. If you go into your account, you'll be able to see what subscriptions you have. Like if you have like a base subscription and what that is. And then it'll be under the active, as Jenny was just showing, and then it'll show you available things. I mean, for most of our customer base, coverage requests, some direct indexing are options, but it's kind of a nice way to see what you have. And if you do need new things in the future, as we do come out with new products and new enhancements, that would be kind of separate. You'll see them in this marketplace. So I just want to, maybe you've seen this before, but it's kind of a new thing. I think it's, Luke, it's what about like probably a month old, maybe?
Yeah, and most features will still be free, like adding additional screens, like that one you mentioned earlier, Anya. We still want to be extremely responsive to requests for new features like that. This marketplace is only going to be for like a third-party partnership product or a significant new version, different product that we would offer. But new feature requests, I'm still going to be doing those for free as part of our just customer service, and definitely want to maintain that responsiveness.
And to be clear, the majority of the coverage requests come from our international clients who have very specific stocks trading on their exchanges. And that's typically what, results in the higher volume of those coverage requests. There's not folks requesting like Apple or Walmart or something like this, that's basic on most US exchanges. These are pretty out there, out there as in another country. Let's see. So
we're going to go.
Yeah.
We had a couple of new things we were going to show, the quick start guide and the education. And these are to be launched. So we're giving you a glimpse of some things that are coming.
These are coming soon. They're not currently enabled for all accounts, but they will be very shortly. So let's talk about the quick start guides first, Matt. You want to add some color on this?
Yeah.
So I'll click on our quick start guides here.
Essentially, we're trying to make this really, really simple and give you more tools to use that are you can use them as you want them. You can always schedule a live tour. You can always reach out to success at Ethos ESG. There's, our support. But if you wanted to, and again, if some of you may have already blown through all this, but for especially a new customer, if they wanted to explore Ethos, schedule a live tour, we'll start there, because that you can just click that and, that'll get onto one of our calendars, and we can spend a little bit more time going through a specific product, topic or new item. And here, actually, Jenny's actually showing us some of the functionality here. When you do go into that, there's a series of screens here that will come up that'll allow you to kind of click through. Again, these are things that you can open and close at any time. Once you start on a guide, you don't have to be stuck in there, but we will reward you with check boxes when you complete a specific topic. If you want to go in and explore Ethos, Jenny, you can see here, going through and clicking through these things it's a good way to, it's kind of a, I don't want to use the word report card because that doesn't sound fun at all. But if you go through and start clicking through some of these items in a guide, it'll check that box, and meaning that just that you've looked at it, you're familiar with it. So it's a good way for to make sure that you're actually covering the entire product. Luke, did you want to add anything on top of that as we kind of move through this?
No, I think that's perfect. It's intended to help the step-by-step walk through some of the core features and make it as easy as possible to accomplish some workflow things. Like this one is just getting familiar with some of the features on Ethos. One of the other guides is using Ethos with the client, so walking through creating a portfolio and then creating a report. So we'll
I
be
just
adding.
wanted to get that check mark.
You want to get the checkbox? Yay! We should have a little like celebration that happens when you get a checkbox. One thing too, I'm just going to jump on this real quick, is one of the things, and there's a lot of preferences that can be set on Ethos, and I'm not sure everybody's aware of them. But if you just even set up your account, there's the preferences with the impact assessment. There's, disclosures that you can add. There's the branding you can add. And there's, just a number of things there. So this is something, even if you've been using Ethos for a while and haven't taken advantage of all the setup areas, it might be something good to explore. And just it's out there. I think this is a really valuable quick start guide here that could apply to more than just anybody that's just signing up today. That's really all I need to say about that. But
yeah.
So.
And it is super helpful because every once in a while, there might be one feature that we forgot to mention along the way, either in onboarding or in the tour originally. And this you might discover something new that you didn't know was there if you go through the guide. But
it's another just when it's available. You don't even have to ever click on it, but it's always there if you ever need it. And if you're just like, if you've gone into the help center not finding a topic and it's like you just had a question, it might be find a topic there that you can actually drill into and explore on your own.
Yeah. And then under the Ethos for the client, this is kind of nice because it'll guide you through the whole process of adding a client to the system and then how to proceed with interacting with them, which is good. So, also worth noting too, you'll notice that the color changed from purple to green. That's how you know you're in the guide format. We wanted to make sure we distinguish between, that's the only difference, is just that background color to distinguish between the guides and just regular Ethos, so where you are.
One thing while you're in there, Jenny, before you click, just as you scroll, if you go through that, using Ethos with the client, this really is kind of the user journey. I mean, you engage a client or lead, you share your impact assessment, they take the impact assessment, then you can really start working and evaluating their current portfolio based on their persona, and then, adding models or proposing new portfolios, and then generating a comparison report to show them where they can get to and how you can better align their portfolio. And hopefully this will end with some trades going on to actually, make that alignment real. So this is a really good thing about the journey that we see an advisor taking with a client as they move through the product. Here's a good question here too from Hallie.
Just reading your question, Hallie, thanks. Do you have plans to create a feature that compares the impact personas of a couple? Yes, that's a great question. There is a feature today, you can create a report that has multiple personas in it. If you have a household, or that's probably worth going through at some point. But yes, I think we should make it more explicit or easy to do this, to have a explicit comparison of the impact personas of a couple. So we'll take that as a follow-up, Hallie, as a soon to be released feature. So we'll keep posting.
That's a great thing that we'll get that on, as Luke said. I also help manage some of the product management and manage the product roadmap, but that's a really, really good one to get onto our roadmap. And so we'll get it scoped out, and we'll get that live as, I'm not going to put any time frame on it, but usually this will happen sooner rather than later on something like this. Thank you for asking that.
I click on the guides. Yes, you'll see that it changed back to purple. So we know that we're back into Ethos. The next thing that I will do is go through something that I've been personally working on for a while, but thanks to Luke, it's now on there, and that's the ESG Education Center. So we've found that there are advisors who will join Ethos for different reasons, and you do have some that perhaps could use a little more help in terms of the overall competencies, if you will, in the broader scale of learning about ESG related factors and sustainable investing, and then ultimately being able to work with different clients along the way. So separate from the guides altogether, which is much more of a guide on how to navigate Ethos, the ESG education is more a broader way to learn more about ESG, sustainable investing, and we have these 3 categories at the moment. There are new pieces that are going to be added shortly, but there are a few in each of these. So the articles that are currently in, what is SRI, what is ESG, terminology for advocacy, for instance, in the 101, incorporating ESG into your practice. Sometimes we'll have either videos or podcasts that are linked to that particular subject, and they will be listed in here. Otherwise, they'll be noted as articles. And then I have a couple here for talking to clients about ESG, but these obviously will have more features available shortly. There's just a few that are in there for the moment. And, really it's just meant to help keep your brain sharp, learn something new if you hadn't yet done so previously, providing some best practices for you to perhaps learn a little bit more about how to engage with your clients more appropriately in this space.
I'm just going to add one thing onto that, Jenny. So it's a good time.
Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing that is, as I see happening a lot, we have a lot of advisors that are not really ESG focused, or they're not in sustainable investing. They're not talking impact, but it also, for them, it all starts with a client's question. So they're like going, oh, wow, and so we've had a number of, folks take free trials, and their questions are like, how do I do this? Or what do I do? And they don't really have a lot of familiarity. So I think this education center can also be very, very helpful for, for a wealth management advisor, just getting into ESG and just starting to talk about impact with their customers. So hopefully it can help broaden and extend our reach. We want everybody to use Ethos to make better decisions, but so we have to have some tools there for them to make more advisors more comfortable using the platform as well.
Yes, thank you, Matt. I had totally forgot about that, but you're absolutely right. It really was meant to have a way to, there are many that come to Ethos with that. Again, a client asked a question. I'm trying to learn more, but I don't know anything about this space. This is a way to make them feel a little more comfortable.
Impact pros on this call, so this, that's for them. It might be, oh, it's nice to know it's there, but I've been doing this
exactly.
for a while.
But you might find something entertaining in there. So, for example, this is a podcast that I did with Investment News a few months ago on ESG's role in financial wellness. You may want to listen to that if it strikes your interest. They're not meant to simply be instructional. They are meant to be a little more informative if you wanted to learn something new. So, all right. Any questions on that? And just so you know, the quick start guides in the education center are both coming soon. Those aren't fully up there. Oh, there you go. Yes, absolutely. When non-SRI focused advisors ask you for resources, you're more than welcome to share these.
Yeah.
I am so, totally for spreading knowledge. So feel free to share this if you'd like. Excellent. So the last component, and we're really good on time, which I think is great, is just some additional functionality that we have in the impact reports. We did talk about the marketplace already, but just some things that if you hadn't noticed previously, we just want to point them out to you so you're not shocked. I did have one client yesterday ask what happened to the impact stories on their report previously, and I'll show you what happened with that. So if I go into, I'm just going to go through an old report to show you rather than create a new one. So this is a comparison report here. If there's a few new options that you can have for these reports. The first thing I'll do is talk about the impact stories. Now, just because the impact stories is listed as an option for this report does not mean it's going to appear on the next slide. What we do now is you have the ability to include all of the available stories, remove all of these from your report, or you can go and select specific impact stories. If you want to read what it is before you include it, you can do so. You can also break it out by type. So if it's a featured holding, if it's related to engagement and that type of impact story that you want to include, totally up to you. But these will be the ones that are available for that specific portfolio. So for instance here, I'm just going to say add them all. And then if I update the report here, where are you down to impact stories? Here they all are listed. And then when I create a PDF, it should include all of them as well. Everything that's going to be on this web version should also appear on that PDF. The other thing are the
just two more things on this.
Yes, please, Matt.
Do you want to show in the real world metrics, they have an infographic option, and I don't know if you've already discovered
That's
that.
What I was looking for, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
It's something that we kind of like leaked it onto the platform, but it didn't get a lot of fanfare. I always thought it was kind of cool, but it's another way to display this information to your customers, your clients.
Yeah, so this is, as you're probably all familiar with, the typical real world metrics and how they would appear on a report. But if you save this as show as an infographic, it changes it instead to a little more whimsical, I'd say, than simply
Same information with a different twist.
Yes, same information, just presented in a different format. That's all.
And you can make this this infographic format in the PDF as well. It's when you're creating the report, there's an option to indicate that you prefer the infographic format to be visible in the PDF. That's in the create or edit the report.
Oh, it is? Okay. Let me go back to that so I can.
If you want to show up in the PDF, you go to real world metrics.
Yep.
And then
and then here, and then you can select infographics.
Yep.
And it doesn't show the preview here though, right? But it'll
it'll show it in the PDF.
Gotcha. And then one more thing, was the report
alternate report format.
Yeah, that's down below here, I think.
Yep.
Now, coming soon, I think we would have customizable covers.
The images.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or there would be like stock art you could choose from to include on these report covers. Obviously, you have your firm's logo because that's included in the firm's profile. But we have our traditional Ethos cover page, or one that's a little more corporate. I'll say.
Some of the feedback we had on the traditional default one is that it took a lot of ink. If you were printing that off for a customer or a client, there's a lot of ink involved in that. So the other report format is a little bit lighter. It will use less ink, but it's just a little bit more updated formatting and style. And we'll start probably moving more to that direction and make that more of our default as we move on here and add more options for it, where you can add different covers and make some different choices about that.
Right. And to be clear, this is just applicable for the PDF of the report. It doesn't do anything for the web view of this page. That's just if you're going to make a PDF of it after the fact. All right. So on my list, that's everything that we needed to get through. Did I forget anything, guys?
I don't think you did. I know that we will definitely, we can wrap up soon. I have, while we have, this group of here right now, we were working through, I just have one question. It's for this, it's a product idea, and we don't want to do it until we get more feedback. So we're going to be reaching out to specific, some advisors to really share a little bit more and more of a structured way. But Luke, I don't know if you had anything to say before I went into this. I don't want to take up any additional time. I was just asking about this one product feature that you and I discussed a little while ago.
Yeah, no, I guess just if anyone has any other questions that you'd like us to address, or anything else that's top of mind for anyone that you'd like us to talk through. And if not, then Matt, then please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and feel free to interrupt me. This is more about you than it is about me getting information. But one of the things we were thinking about is we're sort of doing a lot of user journey work, and you are our customers using the product, and as you work through it, and at the end we kind of get to this aligning a portfolio, and there's actual trading involved. And when that happens, right now we send out regular updates, and you probably receive them, like controversy updates. I don't know if you have any actual screen updates yet, Luke. There's something pass or is failing a screen that was that they previously passed. But we were wondering, as that happens, would it be easy if we were able to push some of these updates directly to your clients? If you toggled on and said, yes, I want my clients to get updates on their, their portfolio that, we've put together through Ethos. And it's a way that they could see, controversy changes, screen changes, things like that they may care about. And we're just not sure if if it's too much of a reach for us to go there, or if it'll be a really good time savings that a customer, one of your clients, might come back to you and say, hey, I just saw that do we need to talk more about this, or do we need to look at changing our portfolio a little bit? And I don't know if anybody wants to you can just chat it, or even kind of blurt it out if you think it's a good idea or just terrible idea.
I think it's a good idea, but it's going to cause a lot of additional reach out from clients, and we already have clients that are super connected to what's going on in the world, and that we get a lot of feedback from. So I would say it wouldn't be something that we would automatically enable for people. They would have to ask us for it. But I think you are collecting user data anyways. When you were doing the impact questionnaires, you get the emails to begin with, and I think if you wanted to do like a little quarterly newsletter that people could opt into from that to our clients, something, to think about it like that, where it wouldn't be, event triggered, but more of a controlled flow of information, that would be maybe something we could talk about. I'd be interested in talking more about what that could look like, but
that's
I would say
generally
no.
Okay. No, that is great to hear. Anya, I'd love to be able to reach out to you. And I mean, it's not an urgent thing that we're doing, but we're just kind of starting to float it out there. But we're trying to look for ways to make your lives easier. But you made a really good point that your clients, these are already connected folks. These are already people that are watching and seeing these things in the news. So it may generate more. It may not be beneficial, to them if they've already are seeing it in other places.
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, it's possible we could have made changes in the portfolio and just not updated the holdings in Ethos too, so they could get alerts for things that we've already moved on from.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
And Hallie, I see your comment here too. That's also a great point. You may want to think of a response or something you'd want to do in response to a significant controversy or something that might trigger a potential portfolio change. So, that's great feedback.
Yeah. Luke, how is this different than what we're doing with the controversy updates that we have right now?
So we do notify, the default is weekly. You can change that frequency under your settings. But yeah, you'll get notified of controversy for any portfolio in your account by default.
Is it under
weekly
personal
email.
settings,
Yeah.
Luke?
Yep.
Okay. That's oh,
sorry. that's-
notifications. There you go. And then notification settings.
Yeah, this will be the frequency when you get notified. You can select notify me when, if you scroll down, there are general updates. If you keep scrolling down, Jenny.
Yep.
Please. So if there's a new controversy, this will be options to get notified by email. Just to you, this is does not go to clients. This is just to you with any controversy or screen changes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and this is a really I mean you know I get these notifications each week and the controversy updates, so they're very, very interesting. But Hallie, this might be the functionality that you need, and you can kind of control the severity that you might want to see as well. And these are for things, Luke, are the Ethos users going to see this for any portfolio they have these holdings in, or
in their account? Yep. Any in your account. So across all of your clients in your account, the default is to look at every holding. So to look through company holdings in your account, any portfolio in your account. It also say if you don't see the emails, check your junk or spam folder. Sometimes our emails get caught there, and but you should get these weekly if you set the weekly. I think it's Saturday is when it goes out.
Yeah, we do define what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Weekly, monthly, daily, immediately. Or never.
Awesome.
Oh, great, Hallie.
Oh, fantastic. Glad to hear it. All right.
I think we could probably end on time if nobody else has anything to add. This is
Yeah. I'll go ahead
feedback
and
has been great.
stop sharing real quick. But thank you all so very much for joining. This has been fun.
Yes, thanks everyone. I appreciate the time. Thanks for joining.
Yep. Have a great rest of the week,
Thanks.
everybody.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And reach out to us if you have any questions.
Yes.
Thanks all. Take care.
Thank you.